We're entering week 13 of best ball, and that means you have just 2 weeks to qualify. And you got to know, guys, it's going to be a really tough one down the home stretch. Guys like Kyren Williams, guys like Pat Freiermuth going off. We're going to talk about it here. I'm also going to review my portfolio today across Underdog, across DraftKings, across drafters. We're also going to look at the top 10 players of each position and hypothesize about who might be the guys you really need in the home stretch of best ball, regular season fantasy football, all that stuff. Let's get into it here. And as always, I have to open up with a little bit of a monologue and apologize for starting the stream a little bit later today. I'm going to be doing stochastic streams. Obviously, did one today with Ben Rossa, so check out the NFL Strategy Show. I'll also be doing one on Thursday, so that'll be 12 o'clock days for Splash Play in both of those. Besides that, that will be on the usual 11 a.m. kick here Monday to Friday on Splash Play. My soliloquy. So starting Sunday was feeling really good for me, and I mentioned it on yesterday's stream because it was just so tilting. Where I saw my lineups on DraftKings and kind of assumed, after having the Thursday night games, having the Friday night game, and having the Sunday games, when I saw my portfolio go up, where I was advancing all of a sudden, I believe 38 teams on DraftKings, advancing over average on Underdog as well, was feeling really good about that. Then over the course of the day, I saw my lineups go completely the opposite way, where I'm now just barely advancing above average on DraftKings at a 12% rate on Underdog, where it really shows you how tight this needle is to thread down the home stretch, where, especially for building, like I do, of course, I love zero RB teams. I love to build teams that try to profit off the chaos of a season. A lot of rookies, a lot of guys we hope to surge late. And for me in particular, like I was feeling those pains this past week. And now is really the time where if you are a person like me who follows your portfolio throughout the course of a weekend, follows it every week and checks in, you're going to see some swings. You're going to see some shit that doesn't feel good. And I think that is the part here where we always talk about best ball being a game of a war of attrition more than anything, a game that's about surviving and hanging in till the home stretch. So I would say for all of you guys out there, if it's your first year really heavily investing in best ball, or even if it's your first year just playing a few lineups, it is going to be some big swings on the home stretch. You need your guys to go off. And you also just might have guys that crush your lineups that you're not even aware why they're crushing your lineups or how it happens. So that is the nature of the best ball beast, but exciting times coming up here. Again, 2 weeks to the playoffs, 5 weeks until we are crowning millionaire winners, multi-millionaire winners on Underdog, 300K winners on Drafters. So there's going to be a lot of fun here down the home stretch, and I hope you guys are enjoying the ride. And before we get into this too, I do want to give a quick shout out to our guy, Matt. Herd Nation did tie for first place, a two-way tie, a two-way split in the $1 showdown yesterday. And he's been a guy that's followed Splash Play, I think, since the beginning. So he asks me questions, always checks in and asks for Sims updates and stuff like that. So really happy to see some of you guys having the success out there, and also taking advice from yesterday's video where we did talk about fading one of the top three guys, TJ Hawkinson, Josh Dobbs, Justin Fields. And then also we talked about playing heavier teams, onslaughting the Bears. Ended up being a 5-1 Bears build with no Josh Dobbs in there that got there. So you should be watching the showdown videos if you're not, even if my lineups don't work out for me. And I got fucking dusty yesterday because I did not get the right 5-1 Bears teams and definitely didn't get in the big tournament. I think that there's still ways to win here, and we are seeing some of the guys who I know are putting in the work have some wins recently as well. So kudos to you guys out there. That is what Splash Play is about. We're not a tout show. This is not a thing where I'm going to be asking you guys to put the avatars up, even though I'd love to see a Splash Play avatar. But I'm very happy to see you guys do well, especially in weeks where I got my fucking ass kicked. So that's how I feel about it. And shout out to our guy Matt for doing well there. All right, there we go. Kid Kick saying, thanks, man. I needed that. Went from 51 out of 141 to 43 out of 141. That is how it goes, man. It is a lot of ebbs and flows. But let's get into this here. And, of course, drop your successes in. I got to read off spurious news, this one as well. MNF beat was tied for first with 35 players, 21K payout. Santos field goal sunk us, and then thinking the Bears got the fumble at the end. Would have broke the 100-player tie for some extra money, but penalty enforced. Yeah, that was one, too, where the DraftKings payout was late yesterday because they weren't sure. Based on the play-by-play data, the penalty got accepted or declined. Turns out it was declined. So I guess no, you're saying penalty enforced. I actually don't know how they graded that one out, but didn't fucking matter for my portfolio. So went poorly though for a lot of people out there. So shout out Spurious News, giving it a shot. That's how it goes, man. I said it earlier in the year where I had a couple of weeks where my showdown lineups were really humming. There was one week where Garrett Wilson touchdown from Zach Wilson coming in, actually the first game of the year. That one sank some lineups. Showdowns move around a lot. That's sort of the tough point of it. But all this moves around a lot. That is the nature of the game we play. Let's look at the top 10 overall, though. Of course, we're looking at half-point PPR scores. And what I'm going to do here is review the top 10 performers of each position and speculate about who could be going up, who could be going down, all that stuff. We have seen a lot of guys that were key parts early in the year of the top 10 falling off. Raheem Mostert, some other guys I think that are coming up a little bit more. But top number one right now, Josh Allen. Of course, another 40-point game for him, 40.7 and half-point PPR points. A slate winner on DraftKings as well for regular DFS this week. He and Jalen Hurts going head-to-head, both guys having great games. And this is what I talked about last week, where I thought that Allen and Hurts were valuable, just putting up these kind of average games they have been putting up. They're going to help you advance, help you make the playoffs in best ball and all of that. But if they're going to be league winners, they're going to be ones that actually take you to the promised land. They have to give you these games like this, 40.7, 35.5. You need to get that in week 16, week 17, week 15. That's where their value can come or not come. If they get outscored by CJ Stroud, if they get outscored by Sam Howell, if they get outscored by Dak, if they get outscored by anybody who's going late, you are screwed. But if they keep doing what they're doing right now, and it does feel like Allen, new lease on life with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator, Jalen Hurts, still not looking like last year's Jalen Hurts, but still competitive in every game and still getting tush-push to a lot of great games overall, even when he's not passing too well. It does feel like a spot that for this one with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, I think they've paid off where you drafted them, and they've certainly put a lot of distance between them and Patrick Mahomes, who's at number 10. And if you drafted Mahomes, I think you are probably not advancing very much. That's sort of where Allen and Hurts do have value. And we'll talk more about Allen when he gets to drafters, because he's definitely driving a lot of my success on drafters to a team that's highly ranked on there. Can we talk about the last play from last night? Kevin, I think you can go read that chat above from our guy Spurious News, and that covers it well. But yeah, definitely unlucky. Definitely not a great one for you guys out there who got the run bad on that one. And it sucks, man, but it's one of those things where if you're playing every slate, like these are going to rack up for you, where I've said before on the stream, like injuries have racked up for me, some unlucky bounces, some plays where like they were deciding plays. What was it a couple weeks ago where there was fucking game it was, but there was a game where basically they were like they had the game in hand. Then the defense gave up 3 first downs basically to keep the other team in. It might have been a Broncos game. Fucking Broncos fuck me over every time. But that's what happens a lot in some of these games. So you just kind of have to get used to it and dust yourself off. But I agree. If you got the bad side of that last play yesterday, like it's going to tilt you probably for a few days. So you find something new to tilt about. Let's see. Easy money on Probably. Sign up. Yes, OG Mansfan, one of the guys I know have paid for a full year of Probably. Go check it out. Of course, Probably.com. Yesterday, another 4-2 day that would have won you about 3.8 units, depending on what unit you're playing. So on Probably, I feel really good about the day, and I'm glad to see Jason took the leap. But take the leap at Probly and go use the promo code SPLASH, save 50% on any Probly package. And a quick plug for Probly, of course, what we do is track the top performing sportsbooks around the world to find you the best bets based on mathematical profitability. And it's been working really well to the point like I need to move some of my DFS play into betting again, because betting funded a lot of my best ball stuff, and then I focused on DFS through the year. And now we're winning so much of Probably, and I'm creating the content every day that I would say for you guys, like legitimately go check out Probably, because the data right now is fucking humming in a way across every sport. We back tested it 50 to 60% win rates, and also 5 to 15% ROIs across every sport. And that included soccer, that included women's tennis, that included everything. So really, like for you guys, like check it out, Probably.com. And of course, the 50% off with promo code SPLASH is only for you guys for being Splash Play viewers, as we roll out some affiliate stuff and hopefully some exciting announcements there on the affiliate front coming up. Christian McCaffrey at number 3. Again, I'm sure Big Lenny would victory lap this one, even though he was drafted at the 103. He's number 3. He's doing what he's got to do. McCaffrey, a 28-point game looks pretty good. I still think that you want to see the 40-point games. That said, for Christian McCaffrey, I know for a few of my underdog teams, they're Christian McCaffrey teams advancing. I believe 5 of my teams might be advancing Christian McCaffrey. So he's definitely helping you advance. You do need to see him have the upside when the games are going to matter in the playoffs. I don't know. San Francisco, Washington in week 17 will be a full McCaffrey go game. Feels like maybe that's when we get closer, perhaps to Eli Mitchell getting in the mix a little bit more. But if he does play it, if he's full go and if he's getting the full workload against Washington in week 17, Christian McCaffrey might win you best ball mania. For what he's done on the year, though, he's not advancing as much as Tyreek. So that's sort of how that goes. Tyreek Hill at number 4. Tyreek up to 9,600 in DFS. And I normally don't look at the DraftKings slates this early in the week, but because I was doing the stochastic stream, I did. Tyreek against Washington this week. I don't know how you don't pay $9,600 for Tyreek going against Washington. Certainly some other ways you can attack that game. You can attack it with the running backs and all of that. Point is, though, in every matchup, Tyreek is going to be in play, but in matchups that are soft, and again, like I warned you guys on the Friday video, like play Tyreek in the showdown. Doesn't matter about the Jets. Doesn't matter about how great their outside corners are. Miami's going to move him around, find him into spaces. What happens? He wins as a captain in that slate. Tyreek is just too good right now. He is the player that I thought Justin Jefferson could be this year. He is a player that is better than any other wide receiver in football. For Tyreek, I think he is a guy that certainly some tough matchups, Baltimore, Miami, could skew more defensive in week 17. But for Tyreek, though, I would say relative to anybody else in the first round, I think he is the guy that most of the field will be relying on to win tournaments. So at this point, if you have Tyreek Hill advancing you a lot, as I do, as I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well, I would say you really need to start looking at what's around Tyreek. What's going to help you be different there? What are your lower owned players? What are your guys that aren't the high advance rate guys? Because we know a lot of the high advance rate guys like Tyreek, guys like McCaffrey, guys like Sam Howell. You can look through BBMDB, which we'll look at in a moment, and you can find the guys who are high advance rate guys. But I think you need to start to look at who are the guys that haven't gone off. Is there a Stephon Diggs? I mean, you're probably not going to have Hill and Diggs. Is there a Devontae Adams with Hill? Is there somebody in the second round who hasn't gone off meaningfully but starting to show some signs of life? Is Christian Watson with your Tyreek Hill teams? I think that's where you need to be, is that you need guys who have been underperforming with your Tyreek to really feel like you have the upside. Because if I had to guess, and I'd have looked at the BBM numbers to see who's advancing the most, I would imagine that Tyreek is going to be responsible for about 40% of the field advancing. Because that's the case with what Justin Jefferson was last year. And if that's the case, like you're going to need Tyreek, but you're also going to need other guys to go off. And God forbid, I hope it doesn't happen to you guys. I hope it doesn't happen to my teams. What happened to Justin Jefferson last year was just dud after dud after dud in the playoffs. And if you get that, it's just going to be hard to dig out of unless you have some really low-owned options alongside of them. So that's how that goes. Spags, what are your biggest changes to draft strategy for next year? For me, it's going to be more conscientious of exposures, or more conscious. I would agree with that. I think the exposure things, for me, I think I'm going to go down to a 20% exposure max next year. There's just a little bit too much risk this year to take on with some of the guys. Like, I'm benefiting from having over the field on Michael Pittman right now. I'm benefiting from having over the field on Achane and Jalen Warren, some guys, but I'm also struggling because I have too much Roschon Johnson, even though he looked pretty spry and got a lot of the work last night. Just too many guys, I think, that were not worth that exposure, who were not sure things. And even guys I thought were sure things, like Christian Watson, have not gotten there, even though it does seem like Watson might be a little bit better down the home stretch. So I would say the exposure things is important. I would also say, for me, getting at least to 7 running backs, or getting to 7 running backs across more lineups, 6 if you're drafting one guy early, but 6 or 7. And I think for me too, as much as it pains me, I do think I'm going to try to go to more of a 50-50 split of 0 RB teams versus Hero Hero plus a couple running backs early. I think it's going to be the main thing for me, because I'm advancing teams a little bit too easily that have the good running backs. And my highest scoring team is still one where I drafted Saquon and Travis Etienne, because I think I'm a little bit good at identifying wide receivers. I should probably play into that strength more, even though I love drafting early wide receivers. But we'll see what happens on the home stretch, like how the playoffs work out. If I have an extreme 0 RB team that wins it all, or gets even close to it, Underdog and DraftKings, it's going to change how I view stuff. So I wouldn't lock it in down. I would look at everything at the end of the year. Started 8-1, now 8-4. Traded Tua, Khalil for Pittman and Jamar. Oh boy. I'm not doing this one, but I'm sure you did great, Michael. Again, you guys know, if you're new to Splash Play, I just glaze over when I see those kind of things. There's too many names, but I'm happy for you. And I'm sure, if your team's going the wrong direction, that's not great, but you still have talent there. So you got to hope it works out. Never a person, for me, if I'm playing season-long leagues, just don't panic about it. That's the best way you can win it season-long, is just, not trading off guys when they're too high, not selling guys when they're too low, and then you trade for a worse thing. It's just, you ride out your team, and you're going to benefit. Like, if you traded Christian Watson for nothing, you miss a 20-point game. And I don't mean to keep harping on Christian Watson, but I think he's the perfect example. Guy that starts poorly, you get rid of him, and then it's like, oh shit, now he's hitting his stride. I think you're always better off trying to manage a little bit more, work waivers, and then just stick with your initial core. Unless you could sell them high, but I don't know. Dak Prescott at number 5. Dak looking good. Came down a little bit the game before last. Was back up to 32 points this past week. The issue for Dak is the stacks that he's getting there with, or maybe not the most logical ones for best ball. So I like Dak. I think Dak is really the guy that, if you're looking for somebody who could beat Allen and Hurts in the playoffs, Dak is probably that guy right now. The matchups maybe not going to be there for him every week, but Detroit, Dallas, as I've mentioned before, that is a week 17 marquee matchup, and Detroit's going the wrong way right now. So maybe that could get a little bit weird, but I do think that's a game where it should have about a 48 point over under, if not a 50 point over under, and 2 offenses that are going to have to go pretty hard to make sure the other offense on the opposing side stays at bay. So Dak, I think if I had to put money, and if it was plus money on which QB is going to win Best Ball Mania or be on a team that wins Best Ball Mania, I think Dak would be the pick that I make, as long as it's not minus money. I think Dak is pretty good. Sam Howell, number 6. Howell, of course, beating ADP by a wide margin, dropping back so much. He's a player that's helping you stay competitive with the other guys, but he's not really putting up the outlier days, and that's sort of the risk of Sam Howell. Sam Howell this week, we'll see what he does against Miami. He definitely could help people advance a little bit more, but I would guess out of all the late QBs, it's either Sam Howell or CJ Stroud that's probably the highest advance rate. Stroud would be a little bit higher, I think, if you got the full stack, including Nico, including Tank Dell. But for Sam Howell, like, he's beaten every projection. He's done really well for himself, and I think he also speaks to what we talk about a lot here. Deep ball thrower, a lot of dropbacks, a little bit of running. that's the recipe for a viable fantasy quarterback. So when you see that, just draft that guy. And Sam Howell has been that guy, and it seems like he's locked in, though we'll see with Washington. I think trending towards moving away from Ron Rivera, but we'll find out after the year. That could certainly upset the apple cart a little bit for Sam Howell. But with how he's played this year, if Washington believes in him and they're going to commit to him as starter, I think Sam Howell's a guy that's probably going to go a little bit too high next year, but still be a guy that I'd be happy to have. Justin Herbert, number 7, CJ Stroud, number 8, Lamar, number 9. Lamar being at number 9 is not a great sign for him. I was talking about it with Ben Ross a little bit. They had the Baltimore Ravens as a Super Bowl contender in their tiers thing they do on the Stochastic Strategy Show. For me, I feel like for Lamar, I just don't think that he is taking full advantage of the opportunity he has in this Todd Monken offense. We did see a nice game for Zay Flowers, but I felt like Lamar could have run a little bit more in that game. In addition to creating a little bit more production in the pass game, it feels like Lamar also historically falls apart a little bit without having Mark Andrews there as a safety blankie. So I worry a little bit about Lamar down the home stretch. He's helped me advance a lot of BBM teams. I would like him to be a little more aggressive about running the ball. But he's not aggressive enough running the ball. He's not getting enough efficacy with the pass game. So Lamar at number 9, I mean, better than Mahomes, but I think that's it's honestly not as good as it could be for Lamar with him running almost 10 times a game. It's such a slow second half for Lamar. I agree. It just feels like he's not hitting the apex like you would see. And I guess that shows in the box scores where he's only crested over 30 points once, has not hit 40 points. That's not a great thing when you drafted him not that far away from Josh Allen, not that far away from Jalen Hurts. Mahomes at number 10. Again, here's where Jordan Love at number 11. I have some Love Howell teams that I'm hoping kind of come together down the home stretch because I think that's a potent late QB duo. Love with his best game of the year last time out, 26.6 fantasy points. So I've talked about a lot on here because I am a Jordan Love bag holder deeply. Jordan Love is a guy that is really improving every single week. And again, you watch the film school guys. I'll always talk about QB School by JT O'Sullivan, which I do. It kind of helps me wrap my head around a lot of guys that I'm kind of struggling with just how they are and if the data matches up with what the eye test will tell a smart person. And Jordan Love, every week he talks about him getting more comfortable in the pocket. When he's playing well, he's getting the ball out with a little bit of velocity, a little bit of snap to it. For Jordan Love, I think he is a guy that I feel really good about. And I do think that if you had a 3 QB team with Prescott, Howell, and one of Love and Stroud, or even if you had a 3 QB team with Howell, Stroud, and Love, you're feeling really good about that one, I think, going into the finals. If you have a Howell, Stroud, Love team, I would think that is actually a lot of fun going into the final round. So check your portfolios if you are a 3 QB drafter, but even 2 out of those 3, I think would be pretty fun because you survive the injuries and you have 2 late guys who've greatly outpaced their ADP. I think they're in good spots and they have stacks as well that I think have some more upside to tap into. Keenan Allen, fine player, think doing well for himself. Going to be 9K on DraftKings this week, which we'll see how that goes. Josh Dobbs coming down a little bit, but he doesn't matter that much for best ball. Brock Purdy coming down a little bit. Should be an interesting game to see how he does against Philadelphia. Purdy, I think we know what he is. If the entire Niners offense is humming, Purdy's going to get there. If it's not, he's not going to get there. And the rest of these guys, nobody too surprising. Jared Goff coming down. I'm surprised to see Goff and Tua this lowly, but obviously these guys don't run. And it does speak again, just having a QB that runs a little bit. That's probably the difference between Tua and Jared Goff and Sam Howell or even Stroud. Like Stroud's been running a little bit more like the Joe Burrow kind of running comps that we talked about before the season. I think that these are really the biggest difference points is that, high pass rate over expectation offense and running just a little bit. And I think that's the difference between Goff and Tua right now and those other guys we talked about. Diggs getting closer to top 20. Hopefully that keeps up. CeeDee Lamb falling down a little bit here. Nothing too surprising. But let's talk about the QBs overall. Read them out. Of course, the top 10. And it's going to be the same thing that we just talked about. So we'll go through this quickly. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Dak, Sam Howell, Justin Herbert at number 5, Lamar, CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love, top 10 QB, and Josh Dobbs closes out the top 10. So again, late QBs, I think look good. Early QBs also look good. And as long as it wasn't Patrick Mahomes, I think you're in a good spot. The 2 historically have a bad second half of the season. Last year, he had the concussions and stuff, and there was some parts about the defense figuring him out, so that could be there. I think it was a little bit more matchup based this past week. Obviously, going against the Jets, and then we're going to be a hospitable matchup. If he bombs this week against Washington, I would have cause for concern. But it is a 29.8 point implied total, and I would guess that crests over 30 over the course of a week. So obviously, Miami could score a lot of different ways. That's always the risk point. But Tua just doesn't run enough. Like, that's the biggest issue. So if he doesn't get there with an outlier passing game, he's not going to prop himself up enough with the run game. So you could say historically he has bad second halves, but I don't think that's actually the thing. And I also, frankly, I wouldn't worry about that as a thing unless the guy were like Adam Thielen's age. Then a bad second half could be like you're just too banged up and too old to keep being as effective as he was early in the year. That might be the Love ceiling game. Maybe. I mean, For him to get a ceiling game against Detroit, like Detroit's defense is pretty good. So I don't know, man. If that's a ceiling game, great. But I think he's got 30 in him. Like, cause he didn't run for a touchdown in that one. I don't think, unless I'm forgetting that, because we were driving to Jersey when that happened for Thanksgiving. So I'm not sure offhand, but I'm pretty sure Jordan Love just got through the pass game. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if he tacks on a rushing touchdown out of that, let alone two, like we're talking high 30s. So I think we can get there with Jordan Love, but I am biased, of course, as we know. Disappointments at QB. Russell Wilson, not a disappointment. Trevor Lawrence, I think, still a disappointment, but we are now 2 games in a row over 25 fantasy points. Again, Zay Jones being back in the mix seems like it was all that Trevor Lawrence needed, but still not a great player overall. Still not, I think, as good as some of the other guys that we've talked about already. But Trevor Lawrence is running a little bit more. So again, the running is really important. He wasn't running as much early in the year. Now he's running and getting touchdowns with it. So Trevor Lawrence, people, you might be able to get him to pay off. And he might be a low-owned advanced guy because I don't think he's going to advance like crazy. And if he doesn't advance like crazy and you sneak him into the playoffs, some good matchups coming up for him. There's definitely some high-scoring matchups potentially coming up for him as well. All right, Baker top 20, pretty crazy. Kirk hanging on at 17 despite being out for a month now, so that's not a great sign. Stafford, I'm not the biggest believer in him. Another guy that doesn't run. Joe Burrow, just really ugly here once you get to this point where Justin Fields, huge disappointment for him, an 11-point game where he looked, eye test-wise, like Justin Fields looked like the most elusive in the pocket he has all year yesterday, and he only gets 11 points. That's a pretty tough one to go to for sure. Got Lawrence, Stroud, and Ritter in my best drafters lineup. That's a pretty good group. Definitely, having all your QBs active at this point is a godsend because we've lost 25% of the QBs that were drafted as starters. And that doesn't even include, like, Baker wasn't really drafted as a starter. Ritter was drafted as a starter, but might be one I'm forgetting. Garoppolo at points wasn't really drafted. So there's definitely like a lot of success for just having QBs stay up and active. And as Leone's talked about at ETR, Mike Leone, of course, does a great job breaking down sort of the advanced data of all the stuff of your actual lineups. It's just about having guys active heading into the finals. So again, 3 active QBs, your entire roster not putting up zeros. Like that's the stuff you really need if you're going to make the finals in advance. Obviously, you got to get out of your pods first in the playoff rounds. Christian McCaffrey, number 1 at running back, no surprises. Raheem Mostert, number 2 at running back. Again, I think we are speaking to the ebbs and flows of running back drafting, where earliest running back that's going, paying off fully. And then besides that, it's a lot of guys going a lot later. Raheem Mostert, Brian Robinson, DeAndre Swift, Rashad White, Kyren Williams, Gus Edwards, Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook, all these guys, 0 RB candidates. So if you wanted the nuts 0 RB portfolio, that is the guys I just listed off. But Mostert at number 2, 20-point game this past week. I worry about Achane coming back in and how that affects Mostert down the home stretch. Achane, it's going to be a tough split. But this matchup for Washington, somebody in that backfield is going to go off. And I think it's more likely to be Mostert, but we'll see how they run out Achane after he was held out this past week. Seemed like he could have played. They want to keep that knee healthy for Achane, so that is a risk point. Travis Etienne, number 3. Etienne, you are really seeing the downside lately, and you're also seeing, again, why I think running backs and tight ends are very simpatico with how this goes. Etienne, just because he had a good run of games, he's now been dog shit for basically a month, including a bye week, and he's still at number 3 overall. So I think that Etienne, even though he looks good in some of my lineups, I don't know that he's going to be a world beater in terms of advance rate. And I think for the playoffs, he's the same as any other running back. But I don't think he's looking like as good of a play as he did 4 weeks ago, where he looked like a league winner. Now I think he's looking like a running back, which is how running backs go, which is why we mock people who draft them so vociferously early on. Josh Jacobs, 20-point game for him. We know that's going to be if the Raiders are running competitively in a game, he's going to get there. Did have a little bit of juice on one long run in that game against the Chiefs. Still don't trust Jacobs week to week. I think you need the positive game script to go his way. But still, Vegas is hanging in, and we have seen Jacobs get fed, so I wouldn't feel bad about Jacobs' shares, especially if you got him at the cheaper point where people weren't sure if he's going to play this year. He's playing, and he's playing enough and doing enough here, even though I don't think there's a big difference between him and some of the late running backs. Brian Robinson, again, another 0 RB guy, doing well. Needs the pass game work to feel more confident in, but Antonio Gibson was back this week. Should be another spot as well where Antonio Gibson might get a little bit more work against Miami because we do expect Washington to be trailing in that spot. But if they're not, Brian Robinson can punch in a few touchdowns. I think he's still a perfectly fine play and a good part of a portfolio where you want 6 running backs. And if Robinson is one of your 6 running backs, you are in a good spot. Bijan coming back to life as well. 2 weeks in a row or 2 games in a row over 17 fantasy points, getting red zone work as well, which is a key part for him because he can have a 50-50 share. He's getting all the red zone touches, including some targets. He's going to be in a lot better spot. So I think Bijan, if you are worried about him, I think he's showing the signs of life we wanted to see. I don't know if he will be a high advance rate guy because of all these duds in the middle. But I do think for Bijan, if you could sneak him into the playoffs, I'd feel really good about that. So Bijan at number 6, I think is showing what he's worth. DeAndre Swift, number 7. Swift, I just wouldn't have a lot of confidence in. We've only seen one game over 20 fantasy points. That said, this is enough to be an RB7. So again, as I'm talking this through, it's like I get why I'm a 0 RB guy. Again, even though I'm advancing some good teams with an early running back. If you just don't hit on the Christian McCaffrey, it's like you should be a 0 RB guy, is how I feel about it. And I think this is how this looks based on all these top scores. Rashad White at number 8, good spot for him coming up against Carolina this week. We've seen the ceiling upside. The ceiling has to be there more with pass game work. The pass game work is a little bit elusive for him, but Rashad White at number 8, I think you have to be happy with where you drafted him. Derrick Henry, a high advance rate guy, puts up 20 points. He's just a reliable running back who went for cheaper than he probably should. He is kind of the poor man's Christian McCaffrey, I think, where you drafted him, you feel okay about it. I think that it's still, you worry about the late running backs coming from when you need it the most. But I'd say for Derrick Henry, no issues really with how he's playing. I think it's just the share not being there quite as much. With Tyjae Spears taking about half the carries, half the snaps away, is not the best overall for Derrick Henry. Kyren Williams plays the Browns this week, so I expect him to come back down to earth, but you could see one big game after 5 weeks out, and he's already back in the top 10. So again, running backs are tight ends. The sooner you accept that, the better off you'll be in a portfolio. Gus Edwards at number 11 is batshit insane, even with 4 fantasy points last time out. But of course, he's had the outlier days, bunch of games over 20. That's going to do it for you. Pacheco, Cook, Gibbs, Tony Pollard showing signs of life again as we thought he would. So Tony Pollard at 15, I don't think I'd feel that bad about. Kamara, maybe an interesting game coming up for him with no Michael Thomas in. Rashid Shaheed banged up. Chris Olave in concussion protocol. You could see Alvin Kamara consolidate some targets this week meaningfully if Olave stays out. Shaheed, I think, is more likely to be out. But I think for these guys, for sure, Kamara, we know the upside is there. Targets still at 8 per game. So for Kamara, he's not dead, but he's definitely not winning you a league like it looked like he would earlier in the year. Who else stands out here? See, Najee at 27, Jaylen Warren at 25. That feels about right. 50-50 share at running back for those two guys. Jaylen Warren, nice matchup coming up this week as well against Arizona, but that could be one with Warren or Harris getting there. Would not shock me. And Achane is coming down now. You can't play. You can't not play for 7 weeks and expect to hold on to your spot. But Achane being top 30 overall, still wouldn't feel bad about. But he needs to get in for these final 2 weeks. I would say for me and for any of you guys out there who are being carried by Achane, he needs to put the hammer down these last 2 weeks. And I worry about that with him coming off the knee stuff. I feel like they might play a little bit too conservatively. Chuba, Singletary, some other 0 RB guys as well. But this is a pretty close gap. This is not a big spread between number 11 and number 30. So if you got any of these guys, I'd feel okay about it unless you paid a premium price tag for them. And unfortunately, for a lot of you guys who do love running backs, you probably paid a steep price tag for those guys that are giving you basically late production. RB is more bust than hit by nature of the position. You need to be selective with your early running backs because teams can't afford zeros from early draft positions. I think that's exactly correct. I think you also run the risk it's doubled because of the wide receiver stuff, where if you're drafting a wide receiver over a running back, you're then propping up another position that people just don't pay enough attention to in best ball. So I think the running back tax is pretty heavy. But when you hit it right, you're getting McCaffrey and you're getting 20 points a week and not have to worry about it. So that's the trade-off. But I think that's why hero RB builds look a little more appealing to me. I'll still do, again, about half my portfolio 0 RB next year, maybe a little bit more. I just think it's the most fun way to draft. But I do think getting one running back and just being here's my guy, and 2 max. But the issue is that people then go 3, 4, even in the modern drafting ecosystem. And that's what you shouldn't do for running backs, in my opinion. But I think the data's backing it out right before our eyes. Wide receiver top 10. Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb. We talked about these guys already. Stephon Diggs, hoping there are some signs of life down the home stretch because he would really help me advance a lot if he can get going. A.J. Brown at number 5, coming down pretty meaningfully with Dallas Goedert being out. Does seem like the Dallas Goedert target share going to Devontae Smith has not been great for A.J. Brown, but also 2 tougher matchups. It's not going to get better for him this week against the Niners. So A.J. Brown, early advance rate guy, is coming down pretty hard and maybe getting close to a guy. If you sneak into the playoffs, the upside is there. But for Philly, we are now running into, they only have 1 loss. And they are now going to be going into the week 17 against Arizona. Is that going to be a full go game? I don't know. A.J. Brown might be a guy that is a little bit of a tough spot for the final home stretch here of best ball in your regular season playoffs as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, number 6, with how the Detroit Lions defenses look, as well as Jared Goff. The Goff part of it's not great. The Detroit defense still looking a little bit worse. Should be a good sign for Amon-Ra. I feel like Jameson Williams coming on strong is not the best for Amon-Ra, as well as Gibbs getting some more backfield targets because that is sort of the low A-dot targets that then are where Amon-Ra is really feasted off of. But I think Amon-Ra at number 6, you have to be pretty happy with it. And I would say for me, I might think down the home stretch, I'd rather have Amon-Ra than A.J. Brown right now, and maybe Diggs as well. But obviously, it's wide receivers. If you have one of them, you're just going in with your wide receiver, and that's your dude. And if you got two of them, then you're in a really nice spot. If you got two of those guys around the turn, the 1-2 turn at wide receiver. AJB just needs to cry a little bit again. Perhaps. I mean, he might just need to yell at Jalen Hurts on the sideline and go, "I'm better than Devontae. Give me the ball again," like he did early in the year. But he hasn't done it yet, so we'll see. But against the Niners, man, like you gotta go for deep shots against the Niners. So AJ Brown can get there as a contrarian play, but it's a little bit tough. And I do think Devontae being more involved is just not great for AJ Brown because Devontae's great, man. I love watching Devontae. DJ Moore, another solid game for him. Again, Justin Fields does look for him. He's the apple of Justin Fields' eyes, I mentioned on yesterday's video. So DJ Moore, great play overall. A half-point PPR looks a little bit less better than the full-point PPR, but I think he was worth the draft capital. The tough part, though, is that I really thought that a bet on Moore was a bet on Fields. And that was actually true because we didn't see Moore have any good games to Tyson Bagent. But Fields has been so bad, he's now dragging down Fields' more stacks. So kind of an interesting push-pull there where I think Fields has been directly responsible for Moore's best games, but also Fields being bad himself is hurting Moore like meaningfully and is probably hurting his advance rate. So that's a tough way for that to have worked out. Mike Evans at number 8. Again, just looking great. I think he at 1,300 yards on the year, I think is what I saw. He's just really doing well overall, performing well. Baker Mayfield's desire to get the ball downfield has been killing Chris Godwin and really helping out Mike Evans. Mike Evans, I believe, is another good matchup this week. Let me double check that. But Evans, we know the ceiling is there. He's a better and best ball guy, but he's also having one of the best years overall of his career. Playing Carolina, who's not the best pass game matchup, definitely better for the run game. It's still soft enough where it would not shock me if Mike Evans goes off again. He's just in play every week. He's a good player. And frankly, with Jamar Chase at number 9, who would you rather have the rest of the year? I think you'd rather have Evans over Chase. Fields has been sketchy. Wouldn't be surprised to see less runs come out of this bye, given he nearly cost them a win with the fumbles. It's tough, man, because him being elusive in the pocket is the most exciting part of any Bears game, and I think it's still the most electric thing that he can do. But there's a one pass he had where he had Mooney wide open, and Mooney ran a great route and got into space, and he just sailed it over his head. And you just can't make those mistakes, and it does feel like Fields still makes those mistakes enough that I wouldn't have the full trust for him, but I still think there's more good than bad with Fields. If I were the Bears and I have the number 1 pick and number 5, I might be inclined to trade again and just see what you could get with Fields. If you could get, another good D lineman or a good offensive lineman or whatever, maybe if you get Marvin Harrison somehow. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting choice for the Bears, but I just don't think Fields is a for sure bet to be traded. I would be curious to see what another coaching staff would do with Justin Fields, because the shit he does in the pocket, man, you just can't replicate. It's just, he's got to set his feet when he's throwing the ball, and he's just sailing too many passes, a lot of airmailed passes. How sure do I think his leash is? No, I mean, I think he's going to be a starter somewhere. I would be shocked if he's not a starter somewhere. Puka Nacua at number 10. Again, Cooper Kupp getting banged up yet again, but still playing in that last game. So Puka's not going to hit that ceiling unless Cooper Kupp actually takes time off, especially if you see Kyren Williams going off too. It's hard for Puka to get there with Kupp in, but Kupp is banged up, man. So at a certain point, I think Puka can come back. He's paid off his ADP for you, but at this point, he's not helping you out. No, one game over 10 in the last 5 weeks is not the best thing, but as an 18th round pick, what are you going to do? Tank Dell, number 11, Ayuk, number 12. These guys are surging. Devontae Adams, not doing great, but doing well enough that he has a shot. You just need one game like this, 135.5 fantasy point game for him to get there. But for Devontae Adams, it's just been a tough haul, and I just don't think he and Aiden O'Connell are on the same page well enough. That said, Adams has looked better, but I think we're now back to the same thing in a more exaggerated version of what it was last year, where if Jacobs has a good game, Adams is probably not going to have one. If Adams has a good game, Jacobs isn't going to have one. It's just the game script part of it, but Aiden O'Connell is not giving him exactly a big ceiling. Fields is okay, but this QB prospects are tempting. I agree. I just think in terms of draft capital, that wouldn't be the thing I do, but that's me. I'm not the guy in the front office. Tight end, CJ Hawkinson, still at tight end 1 on the year, is now safely past Travis Kelce. I'll see if that holds. Kelce desperately needs Taylor Swift to get off her concert tour and come to a game, because he's not been the same in 5 weeks. We have not seen a game over 12.5 fantasy points for Kelce. That is not worth where you drafted him. Kelce teams are probably not advancing very highly, I would guess, but he's at number 2. George Kittle at number 3, dog shit game this past week. Maybe interesting bounce back spot against Philly coming up. Kittle, I think a guy you feel perfectly happy with. I know I have one Kittle, Jake Ferguson team hopefully rolling into the playoffs. I'd feel good about that pairing. I think Kittle, you're going to have a lower advance rate for Kittle, but I think he still has the spike weeks to get you there. And last year, he carried me in the playoffs. So Definitely in play to do it again, but obviously with the Niners being full health, does become a little bit of a tougher needle to thread. Laporta's still at number 4 despite a 15-point game. I like Laporta. I think he's been good. It does feel like with Andrews likely being out the rest of the year, if not being out until later parts of the year, does feel like Laporta's going to hold on to the number 4 spot. I don't know who could really beat him at this point, unless Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet put up some massive spike week games. So Laporta has single-handedly disproven a lot of the rookie tight end stuff, which I got a lot of fucking shit for from people out there. And I said, draft rookie tight ends. And people were like, no, there's no rookie tight ends. I haven't finished in the top 10. It doesn't happen. Well, that's wrong now. So hopefully next year, if you see a rookie tight end in a good spot going into a good offense, Laporta's gotten there. Obviously, Musgrave being hurt doesn't help. Mayer hasn't gotten there in the same way. So not all rookie tight ends are created equal. But I think Laporta and Kincaid, like they've paid it off and they're looking good down the home stretch. So I can't hate that. Kmet, Schultz, Taysom Hill at number 8, Jake Ferguson number 9. Taysom Hill, by the way, could benefit for some of this Kamara stuff that I talked about earlier, where if you don't have Olave, if you don't have Shaheed, if you don't have Michael Thomas, those targets have to consolidate. Those opportunities have to consolidate somewhere. And we know that Taysom Hill loves to consolidate opportunities. So I would say Taysom very live for sure. As a guy with him, I have a lot of him in 3 tight end builds. I feel okay about Taysom Hill in that home stretch, even though he's not gotten there the last 3 weeks. Ferguson, still high touchdown expectancy for him, which is the red zone work he gets. The Dallas offense is great. Ferguson, 2 down weeks in a row. I think he's in play every week, though. And Dalton Kincaid at number 10. Kincaid, I said to move up to number 10 or top 10. He's done it now. And now at this point, he can get to top 5 and it wouldn't shock me. But we'll see, though. The role is getting a little bit worse for him with Joe Brady. Under 8 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. So Kincaid maybe moving the wrong way. And if Diggs goes up, I think Kincaid kind of comes down, let alone if Gabe Davis goes up, if Shakir goes up. Like, it's going to be tough for Kincaid to get there, especially if Dawson Knox comes back in at some point. 2 of the top 10 are rookie tight ends, or 3 of the top 10. Oh, no, Ferguson's not a rookie. I think, is that who you're counting? Ferguson's year 2, but close enough. Yeah, 3 of the top 10. But 2 of the top 10 for sure are rookies at tight end. All right, guys, we have to do the part that I'm dreading, but we'll go to my portfolio now. And of course, before we do this, before I shame myself publicly, please subscribe down below. Splash Play on the march to 3,000 subs. And YouTube is really fucking kicking ass for us lately because you guys have been smashing the like button. So number 1, if you've been hitting the like button every video, please keep doing that because it's really helping out. And I appreciate that as a solo person here doing this channel, trying to build it up. But also, like, we're getting impressions again. People are checking out the videos who are new. So please keep doing what you're doing. Hit the like button and subscribe down below. We want to hit 3K subs before the end of the year, and it looks like we might hit it sooner than later, which would be great. All right, so my portfolio moved around a lot on Underdog this week, where at one point I was up to $1,000 winning, which meant more teams advancing everywhere. Then it went down pretty badly over the course of Sunday, which bummed me out. My best team still remains this one in the Golden, of course, the winner-take-all tournament that I don't want my best entry to be in, but 27 points in this one, which would be good for... Should be good for a good score in Underdog's main tournaments. So we'd be somewhere top 1,000, which would be fine. But instead, we have it in this fucking stupid tournament. The team, again, you've seen it every week. Tua, Derek Carr, Saquon, Etienne, Brian Robinson. And this team, by the way, is what makes me feel like I need to rethink how I handle running backs because, like, I don't think, like, this team doesn't do a whole lot for me because I combine it with early wide receiver, 2 early running backs, and then also hit on 2 of my 0 RB guys that worked out better. So, again, just not a team I normally build, but it's working out well. Did get Puka as well, has been helping this team out. Mark Andrews has not been helping out recently. Juwan Johnson hopefully will benefit in the coming weeks from the Saints stuff, but I just don't really care about this team because it has to beat everybody to win the $25,000 at the end. So it is not the tournament I want this team in. The BBM entries, though, let's look it up. Chris Spags here on BBMDB. If you want to look at your teams, you can do the same thing here at this website, bbmdb.com. I think the guy's name is Diablo who does it, and it is a very sick tool, better than Underdog's actual product. No disrespect to them. But this one's looking good. So I'm advancing 18 out of 150, which is 12%, which again, fucking bums me out. I do not want to be under average. Last year, I was a little bit under 13%. Still got 1 finalist in, so I'm not going to sweat it too much. But I just lost a lot to like guys that were in the range where you could see 7 points back on this one, 5 points back on this one, 22 points back on this one. I guess I'm also clicking the teams accidentally as we go. 12 points back, 23 points back, 9 points back, 19 points back, 15 points back, 0.5 fucking points back. So this is how it's going to go down the home stretch. If you have the teams, the players that are going to help you win over these next 2 weeks, if I have these players who are going to help me win over the next 2 weeks, we're going to take a leap up. If we don't, I'm going to sink. I don't want to sink here. The good news is I do have 150 entries, so I'll advance something. Like I'll advance fucking 10 out of 150 if it gets really bad. But I do feel like this is a really fragile point of the year. So you need your guys to be hitting the nuts at the right time. That's what we talk about. We talk about profiting off the chaos. And it embarrasses me to show up here with a 12%. But again, if I'm going to defend myself, I got 16% Justin Jefferson this year because of the preponderance of 101s I got. I have my AR shares. I have my Christian Watson that's been killing me. So there's a lot of shit that I could defend myself with. J.K. Dobbins is a 20% guy for me. But it bums me out because like I felt like I was getting to hitting my stride last week, being back at average and hopefully making a run. This is going to be a tough few weeks for me. This is either going to be really good on Underdog or it's going to be really bad. And I have no clue how it's going to go. Brutal bye week this week, I think, shakes it up. I hope so, because I wasn't benefited by every team playing last week. So that's how I feel about it. But I really think the biggest pain points for me are Jefferson, Dobbins, and Anthony Richardson. Like, the more I've thought about it, it's like, because I'm not advancing. I'll show you guys here. Justin Jefferson. This is another cool thing you do, by the way. You can see how many teams you're advancing with a specific player. Refresh leaderboard. Oh, not A.T. Perry. I don't think we need any A.T. Perry shares. I'm not advancing a single Justin Jefferson one. And the best one I have is the 100,000th place. I'm hoping that this one could sneak in or one of them could sneak in. But all these Jefferson teams are just like dead. They are just dead. So Jefferson not playing this week was not a help to me. And if you sneak Jefferson in, they're going to feel a lot better about it. A.J. Brown, how many advances with A.J. Brown? 22% advance rate to A.J. Brown. Doesn't surprise me there. Stephon Diggs, I have to presume, hurting me a little bit as well. Yeah, 2 out of 23 for Diggs. Yeah, this is just a lot of fun to do on the site. I would fully recommend going to BBMDB and doing this for your own portfolio. 2 out of 21 for Devontae Adams. So the 0 RB wide receivers at the end of the first round who aren't A.J. Brown are absolutely hurting my portfolio in a meaningful way. So I need those guys to bounce back for sure. Amon-Ra, maybe a little bit better. Yeah, 28% for Amon-Ra. All right, so Amon-Ra is my dude, apparently. Are we at the stage where being 100 points below advance in your room is just dead? No, it's not 100 points yet. 100 points heading into week 14, maybe. But you just need to hit the nuts. Like, you need to have the nuts line up that week. So nothing is really dead. But I think this is pretty tough. With Jaren Hall as QB, I think that was tough talk from Kevin O'Connell. I don't think that's a for sure thing. We'll see what happens after the bye, but I think they're going to go with Josh Dobbs. Jaren Hall just doesn't have the same juice. I think Jaren Hall's looked pretty good for the one drive he had. But it's just, I think Dobbs is more of a pro QB. Jaren Hall's not ready. If they're trying to make the playoffs, they shouldn't play Jaren Hall. Will you have to ignore ADP deliberately to limit exposure further? No, I think it's just reaching around different guys in different pockets for sure. But yeah, it's all relative for sure. I just think when people are reaching like 20 spots for ADP, you're building worse lineups and pairing yourself with later teams, and it's just not the way to do that. Feels like this year's been much worse for injuries than previous years. A lot of QBs who are decimating more than just themselves. Jets, Minnesota, Cincinnati. I would throw in Cleveland with that one as well. I have 10% with Deshaun Watson, and that shit's dead. Yeah, it's tough, man. I feel okay about it overall. And for what it's worth, too, I didn't actually do this on the Underdog side because obviously we can't see my team names on there. Out of the how many teams was it? Hold on. Out of the 18 teams I'm advancing, Spags Stacks teams, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 18 are Spag Stacks teams. So I thought that was interesting as well. Just the concept of stacking is proving really strongly in my portfolio. That's something you should do. Head-to-heads with Pete. I have 1, 2, 3 advancing from Pete, from the head-to-heads that we were doing all year for him, versus him rather. So I don't know. Stream drafts did okay for me, but we'll see how it goes again down the home stretch. I don't even want to look at these teams anymore. Top 10,000 here for Best Ball Mania. You can see here, no half step and has taken over Mikey Juice. Do we really care about it? No, because I'm not on the top 10,000. But let's look at the top team here. Let's take me off as a user. Top overall team right now is going to be this one. Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, James Cook, Rashad White. So a 0 RB team. A.J. Dillon, Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards, Zach Moss, Kyren Williams. He also did go 7 running backs. So fucking really leaning into the stuff that I think I want to do next year. Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen. Oh, wow. He's number 1 with Diggs. That's impressive. Keenan Allen, Christian Watson, Cortland Sutton, who's had a lot of end zone targets this year. Nico Collins, worthless spot with Van Jefferson, but Tank Dell's helping him out. And then Hockenson and Everett. This team is really... This is like a by-the-numbers 0 RB team, but with Josh Allen as one of the plays here with Diggs. So interesting team to see up top, but definitely could be another year again. 0 RB team won the regular season prize last year. Might be winning it again this year. When you get top 10,000, if you're on this screen, kudos to you. And if you're not, neither am I. So you're not alone. Feel good about that. My DraftKings entries, we are still advancing just shy of 17% on DraftKings, so could be worse on there. But this was the one that really got me because on DraftKings, it's updating in like full real time, and I was up to just shy of $1,800 in winning. So like I would have profited by just the regular season, which is not how best ball normally goes, but felt really good about how things were going, and then just saw it drop throughout the course of the day, so that was a bummer. But I do have some sick DraftKings teams, and we'll look at them right now. This one's got 1885. Sure, again, as is always the case, somebody in chat's got more points than me, and I'm sure they will let me know that we probably have a 1,900-point score. But this is my 1885 team. Stroud, Cook, Montgomery, Pittman, Diggs, Amon-Ra, Hawkinson, Tank Dell in this one, Singletary, Javonte, Josh Downs, Pierce. Oh, this is an AR team, huh? Oh, poor AR. Oh, I hate it. AR, we got Thornton, we got Judy, we got HN, we got Woods, we got Rojo. This has been my top team for a while now. This one was drafted early based upon the fact that we do have Rojo in here. Rojo is a guy I think I drafted only in May, maybe early June. So definitely a unique team and one with a lot of stars. So I feel okay about that one. Good. Spurious News is an have more points to me. Thank you, Spurious News. I just know every week somebody comes in and goes, I go like, I feel really good about the team. And somebody's like, yeah, I've got a team with 50 more points, which is how it goes. I expect you guys to draft good teams. So if you don't have more points than me sometimes, then that's on you. That's on you. My number 2 team here, Dax, Singletary, Roshan back to life. Very excited to see him on DraftKings in particular. Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Schoonmaker at tight end is not a good sign. Ayuk, we got Stafford, Gibbs. This team is fucking loaded too. Loaded everywhere but tight end, where Waller and Musgrave are both on IR, and I think both of them not the most likely to play. Definitely Waller, not the most likely to play again, but that's it. Profit is the number unless you make it past round 2. It shows you 51. Oh, yeah. It's okay. I forgot that about the stupid DraftKings thing. It shows you the theoretical expected value of your ticket based upon every lineup advancing. But still, like, I was happy to be in the black. Obviously, being in the red, not great, but at least we're above average advance rate. Anyway, here's my other teams here. A lot of first places, a lot of second places, a lot of third places as well that are also fairly high scoring. So I think these are going to be ones that make some runs. But man, we did run into a few really tough teams here. The first place here has 1880 points. So this is the first place team. This one, Han Solo Cup. Hal, Mostert, Jonathan Taylor, Hill, Waddle. Ooh, he's got the Miami double with Curtis Samuel. I need Curtis Samuel to come back down to earth because he's absolutely not helping me out. I don't think I drafted Curtis Samuel more than 5 times across everything. Here we go. Robert's at, okay, 1860. So I'm a little bit better than that. All right. If you can't beat me with 1900, there we go. I did a draft with Hall of Fame QB Jim Kelly. Yeah, we get all the luminaries here on Splash Play. That's what I've always said. My worst team on DraftKings, this is always fun to look at. Again, for DraftKings, though, I think I've got some ebbs and flows coming. I feel okay about my leadership points so far, where like how far in advance of the third place guys I am. But I need a few to like kind of get where they need to go. I would like to be above 1,500 winning because that'll mean I'm substantially above the average advance rate of 16 point whatever percent. So that's how I'm feeling about it. My worst team, this one, 13-13 in last place, 440 points behind first. So I don't think we're going to make a run here. Oh boy, Bryce Young, DeAndre Swift, Eli Mitchell, fucking Eli Mitchell. How could he not have one good game? At least he got 39 rushing yards last time out. A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Alec Pierce made this team, so that's not good. Ingram, Metcalf, DK Metcalf needs to give me something down the home stretch, man. One spike week for DK, please. Just one 30-point game for DK would be very helpful. He's been very good, but fuck. Patterson, Thornton, Slayton, Juju. This is like the opposite of a hit factory. This is DraftKings team. Mac Jones, Mechie, the only bad Texas receiver. God, I hate it. Burks not playing right now. Kendry not playing right now. Penny's fucking healthy scratches. Why they couldn't just cut Penny and let him have another role? Whatever. Thank you, Spurs. At least I could beat you on the worst team of multiple teams, the 1100s. Look, if you're either playing for first or last, that's how DFS goes. And the league here up 24 points on me, but it's tight. All right, there we go. So that's all we can do. And best DK team is an AR team. Just seeing that sad. Justin, imagine my entire portfolio. Imagine going through that. We are now winning in spite of AR, which hurts me so much because he was on pace to be the greatest, and I'm going to have to pay a fucking ungodly amount to draft him next year. All right, so for drafters, this is the one that is going well. Top 100 on drafters. I had the nuts lineup this week. Josh Allen, Kyren Williams going off. Tyreek, Devontae, Michael Pittman. Then also had Jalen Hyatt putting up his first 100-yard day. So that felt pretty good. TJ Hawkinson got me enough to move ahead of Kincaid and Taysom Hill. So on drafters, we're doing okay. Once again, I will say, you'll see some of these teams here are going to be very chalky looking. Play on drafters more. I'm actually supposed to talk to drafters again pretty soon. So I would say on this show, I would prepare to see more drafters, probably one draft a week or one stream a week. We'll be doing drafters. But I would say for you guys out there, like, I went in completely half-assed because drafters wanted to do an ad buy with us and wanted to be on the show. I then just did drafters drafts based off of my knowledge of PPR drafting. And then I put together a team that's top 100 out of 7 entries I put in. So if you're putting in 150, you're probably doing really well. I know Eagles put in, they put in 150 because this is entry number 140 for him. But again, Eagles, a draft who I think drafts like pretty straightforward, median projection he drafts. Allen, Henry, Rashad White, Mostert, Hill, Ayuk, Marquise Brown. Really nothing that crazy here. Like he didn't get any like the Kyrens of the world. Didn't get any. Got Gus Edwards, but didn't get any late guys that are really making a meaningful impact at tight end. I think a pretty standard tight end room. Did get Puka, but overall, it's just like it's not. I just don't think when I look through the draft receivers, there's no disrespect to anybody. It's just like here's number one ASAP Tuna, Stroud again, chalky running backs, Barkley and ATN. Mostert and Achan. Got Kyren Wright, excuse me. Diggs and Allen. Those guys made the lineup here, but he did have some real duds with Dotson and QJ and Treylon Burks. Mims also definitely, I would say, more on the bust side. Rashid Shaheed looking a little better. And this is number one overall. No disrespect to ASCB Tuna, but like, I just don't think that there was like anything that went into drafters where it's like, oh man, I could never make this team. These are all very makeable teams. These are all very doable teams that ended up top, and that includes mine in the top 100. So, and we'll look at Chunk's team. I saw Chunk the Deuce in the chat. I think said he was top 50. Here's Chunk the Deuce's team. Shout out to him being top 50. Trevor Lawrence, Stroud, Ritter, ATN, Cook. So you want the hero RB. Cook got Achan. Man, a lot of us need Achan, huh? Achan, Singletary, Kendre Miller, Chase Brown, who is active again, and the Bengals going the wrong way. So Chase Brown actually might make some lineups down the home stretch. We'll see. Tyreek Hill, Higgins, Ridley, Moore, Collins, Rondale. I got Tank as well. Tank didn't even make his team this week, so that's a pretty good wide receiver core. Even with T. Higgins hurt. Good job by Chunk. Ingram, Schultz, Taysom Hill. So shout out to our guy Chunk. Chunk top 50. Again, I think Drafters is probably the site I would advocate for drafting the most, as we talk about a lot just in general with DFS. Playing on sites with less sharp people, playing on sites with less people overall, you're just going to have a better shot to bubble up. And I think Drafters did have a little bit of overlay at the end as well. So you're getting it on both sides there, but you should play on Drafters. And again, like that's it. This isn't an ad. Like this is just me being real with you about what my portfolio is. I wish I'd pour my money in Drafters, but obviously the prestige is going to be there a little bit more so for winning Underdog, for winning DraftKings, but Drafters is a great site to play on, and it was a good experience drafting on there too. So we'll see what we do next year. I'm advancing 7 out of 13 AR teams. Feels bad. I mean, honestly, to be advancing that much, I'd be proud of that. But you know what? The main thing for me is that if I take an AR team to the finals, again, I did it last year with Trey Lance and my Joe Burrow and my finals team on BBM. I'm happy to take AR for the ride. Like, I would like to have a second QB, but I would also just like to have AR as part of my journey, as somebody that's been a part of my journey in best ball. So it's all relative, but relative to the other like fucking 8 QBs who are starters who've been hurt, I'm glad to have AR in my roster still, even though you'd rather have it be a QB that went late and I guess isn't playing, but what are we going to do? QJ is almost definitely a bust, which is sad. I don't think so. I don't think he's dead. Like, you have to look at the positive things that he does in the plays. Like, yeah, dropping that game-winning pass last week, not great. Having the routes come down this week, not great. But he is able to get open. He is able to still avoid tackles like he did in college at TCU. So I think there's signs of life for Quentin Johnston, but it's obviously like you do want to see him be out there getting reps. And I do think for them, Chargers are going the wrong way. But if for him, like Keenan Allen being out potentially at some point this year, hopefully not due to injury, but like if he's out, like QJ is going to get that work. And I think he's going to pay off when he just gets like 10 targets. You just have to force feed him the ball and eventually it's going to work out because he's so good after the catch. But I agree, like it's not looking great. It does seem like the team is losing a little bit of faith in him for sure. Does anyone know where I can return all my Rashad Penny shares? Thanks, Mike. Shout out Mike, one of the producers at Stochastic. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't return them either. And that's how it goes. But good news, guys. You could also do some stuff right now. You can subscribe down below. You can hit the like button. You can leave a comment. Splash Play in the march of 3K subs. And I do appreciate each and every one of you being here, but I still want more people in. I want to help more people get the good word of Spags, but more than that, just have more people to talk about, more people to give their takes. And as always, it's going to be the case here. I show up Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. unless I'm doing a stochastic stream. And I do my best to give you guys the best takes I can. That's always been my promise to you. Give you guys the best data, give you guys the best approach that I can, the best game theory I can. It's not always going to win the most money for me. It's not always win the most money for you, but I do think I've seen enough of you guys doing well recently and being very kind to give me some credit with it. That I really believe that if you are new around here, you should join and just join the fray. Hop into the chat. One of the friendliest chats out there, one of the best chats out there. Speaking of, you can also hit the join button down below for $4.99 a month and get your name on these credits. But thank you to all the folks here who are official Splash Play members, parts of the Squirt Squad. Hit that join button down below, $4.99 a month. You get my data sheet every weekend. And you also help support the show. Again, like I'm not making money right now, guys. I do stochastic streams. I've invested a shit ton in my startup probably. So help a brother out by please joining down below and you get yourself the custom emojis, get yourself the badge on your name. But also you really are helping me put the show on every week. And I do appreciate that as well. Last but not least, check out Probably. Again, I'm like, it sounds like a fucking shill thing. I'm telling you guys, if you're betting regularly and you're not using our data, probably you're fucking up right now because like OddsJam, which had a lot of big winners out there, people buying cars off it, like OddsShopper as well, which is a different process, uses player projections. Like Greg Ehrenberg over there has made a ton of money. Probably it's the same thing, except it uses market data from top performing sportsbooks around the world, and it'll help you make good bets easily from the toilet, literally. That's how we made the app. It's designed to help you get in good bets with no friction. And if you join right now and use promo code SPLASH, you save 50% off any monthly or annual. And if you buy an annual one, I love you because it helps us out right now where we need to prove the numbers out so we can get investors in and get the ball rolling for turning this into a real company. But for right now, like I'm going to do the Probably video in a moment on the Probably YouTube channel. And I can tell you like the bets are crushing right now. Like I wish I were placing every bet right now, but frankly, I should have the funds to play DFS weekly and also bet as much as I would like to. For you guys, if you do have that, like take advantage of it. It's not bullshit. This is from the bottom of my heart. And I built the product to make it easier for you guys to win money because I hate seeing people lose money. I hate being on YouTube streams and hearing about credit card debt and medical bills and all that shit. It's always bummed me out. So like Probably is a product I'm making to make my life better for sure. But it is like, I think I'm the only person in betting that's actually doing like what I think is a good thing for the community because I want people to win more and get good data in and just find it easier to get in good bets that'll give you a real shot to win money. So check it out, Probably. Probably.com/subscribe. Promo code SPLASH will save you 50%. And of course, follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. I'll be back tomorrow, the return of the Spags ranking. So we're going to be really digging deep on all the players, trying to find out who's great, who's a superior player, who's in a great spot, who's just mid. We'll find that out tomorrow. Appreciate all you guys being here. Thanks for watching. See you guys soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Bye.